Welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you do me a favor, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. So the regular season of the NBA is coming to an end. We got about 2 to 4 games left, or for each team. And of course, and we talked about it a little bit last episode, but the Lakers season is over. They didn't make the play-in. The Lakers season's over. And, now you're hearing a lot of talk. Somebody has to justify why. You know what I mean? Like, that's the questions that you're hearing. That's the verbiage that you're hearing now. You're hearing Anthony Davis, the reason why, the season went the way it went is due to injuries, and it would be a lot different, and we had more injuries than lineups and injuries, or this and the third. You hear people on sports talk or sports channels and stuff saying that this was the most disappointing season ever for a basketball team, or this was the worst Lakers team of all time. This and the third. And I want to address two things. I want to address two things in one. Let's say that. I want to address the statement that the reason why the Lakers the reason why the Lakers season went the way it went was due to injury. I also want to address when I say that this is the most disappointing team in NBA history. Now, going into the season, of course, the Lakers had a very loud offseason, and they were projected to, make it to the finals out the West. So if you look statistically, I think this is the first team in NBA history that was ever favored or co-favored to win an NBA championship that didn't even make it to the play-in, let alone the playoffs. So if you just talk in that instance, then yes, of course, this is very disappointing. One of the most disappointing teams ever. But the word that keeps coming to mind is realistic expectations. Now, realistic expectations are different for different people, different for different teams, different for different clubs. I don't expect if I started learning how to drum, like now, and then there was somebody that was a drummer before, stopped, and then wanted to get back on. There's different levels of expectations there. I don't expect to be the same, even if we start at the same point right now. I don't expect to be the same or to get to the same heights that person got to because they started earlier than me. That might have been a bad example. But let's talk about these Lakers. Let's talk about the Lakers. Now, I understand maybe 18, 19 months ago, the Lakers were hoisting the NBA championship. Of course, it was in the bubble. They beat the Miami Heat, 4-1 in the bubble. And of course, any team that bowls LeBron James on it should always or has always been in contention, at least for the last, 10, 15 years. Every team that LeBron James pretty much has been on has been in contention. But if you look at the pieces, I know the storied history that the Lakers have. I mean, of course we do. Magic Johnson, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, Shaq. Hell, they just won the championship, like I said, about 18 months ago. So I understand, when we hear names, basketball's big at this. When we hear names, we just hear the name. And a lot of times we don't want to attribute what we should attribute to said name. We just hear names. And what do I mean by that? Let's kind of advance this. So the Lakers didn't make the play-in tournament. Okay. This is the same Lakers team that was a preseason, like before the season started, preseason favorite to win the championship. Let's dissect this team for a second, because I didn't do this last episode. Again, I briefly touched on this last episode, but let's kind of dive deeper. Reports came out that LeBron James is out for the season now due to a sprained ankle, which I think I hope you get well soon, clearly. But I think it's funny that he sprained his ankle, missed some time, played a game, had 30-something points. I think like 38 points or something. They lost that game. Sprained ankle. They ain't played since. But let's remember the opening day team. Carmelo, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, Rajon Rondo, DeAndre Jordan. Big names. Again, we're looking at the names. But let's dissect this team. Let's first start with Rondo, who is not even on the team anymore. That didn't even last half a season. Not on the team right now. I think he's on the Cleveland Cavaliers. It didn't work. Rondo is a person that's not really accustomed to coming off the bench, but has to, because on this team, he did not have enough scoring power to start. So he had to come off the bench. Didn't really work that well. It's off the team. DeAndre Jordan has not been good, honestly, since him and Chris Paul split up on the Clippers. Chris Paul, of course, going to the Rockets. DeAndre Jordan staying with the Clippers. He has not been good since. In fact, the nail on the coffin for DeAndre Jordan was that crazy pass that he threw that landed in the fifth row. The next day he was cut. So that's two people. Those are two of the big names that the Lakers drew in. Now let's look at this entire roster. Now, before we look at this entire roster, currently the Lakers are 31-49. Currently. Now let's look at this entire roster. Carmelo Anthony. At the height of Carmelo Anthony's career, what was Carmelo Anthony? Carmelo Anthony was arguably one of the greatest scorers of this generation, especially when we talk about mid-range scoring. He never was the best three-point shooter, but because he was such a lethal mid-range shooter, the three-point, you didn't really need it because he can give you 50 any given day. He is one of the greatest shooters that our generation has ever seen. But at Carmelo Anthony's height, the height of his powers, the peak of his career, what was the knock on Carmelo Anthony? Two things, actually. One, when the ball touched Carmelo Anthony's hands, it usually didn't touch somebody else's hands. Also, he never really played defense. Carmelo Anthony used all his energy, all his juju on the offensive side of the ball, which he was spectacular. But defensively, no. This was at the peak of his powers. Carmelo Anthony now is 37. Of course, he can still shoot mid-range. However, he's not hitting it at the same clip that he used to, even though he's shooting it at the same clip that he used to. And his defense is worse now. So anytime Carmelo Anthony is on the floor, teams go at him. That's Melo. DJ Augustine picked him up from the street just a couple months or weeks ago. Kent Bazemore. I swear Kent Bazemore is only good when he has a Golden State Warriors jersey because he ain't been good nowhere else. Wayne Ellington was supposed to be a three-point specialist for this team because I don't know if you noticed, but the three names that I've already said aren't the greatest three-point shooters. DJ Augustine's okay, but he's not consistent. So they needed Wayne Ellington to do that. No, he has not been. Avery Bradley, they picked him up. The Warriors waived him. They picked him up a day later and started the next day. Avery Bradley's been okay. But Avery Bradley is not a championship player at this point. I don't think he ever was, actually. Wayne Gabriel. For people that don't know, he went to Kentucky. Hasn't done much. And he's 25? Yeah, he hasn't done much. Taylor Horton Tucker just had a 40-point game the other day. He has spurts. But Taylor Horton Tucker is actually one of the biggest reasons why the Lakers do not have Kyle Lowry right now. The same Kyle Lowry who is the starting point guard for the Miami Heat. The same Miami Heat that is number one in the East right now. Dwight Howard isn't the same Dwight Howard of old. 36. Them back injuries done derailed Dwight. Stanley Johnson, another pick him off the street, and now he's playing major minutes. Malik Monk, probably their most consistent player this entire year, outside of course, the big one. But probably their most consistent role player, let's say that, role player this entire year. I don't really have much bad to say about Malik Monk. He's been great this year. Austin Reeves, a pleasant surprise. Nobody thought he was going to be as good as he is. 23, 6'5", decent shooter. He's been good too. I don't know if you noticed, but I left out 4 names. And those names we're going to talk about now. Those 4 names are Russell Westbrook, Kendrick Nunn, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Let's start with Kendrick Nunn. Because I'm hearing a lot of people say if we didn't have Kendrick Nunn all year, if we had Kendrick Nunn, Anthony Davis said if we had Kendrick Nunn, man, I've said this before and I will say it again. I don't know if we're watching the same basketball. I don't know if we're watching the same or we watched the same Kendrick Nunn that was in the Miami Heat, who was good. Don't get me wrong. Kendrick Nunn was really good in Miami Heat. But Kendrick Nunn is not one of those players that just shift the tide. You know what I mean? Like, Kendrick Nunn isn't one of those players that's like, oh, no, we got Kendrick Nunn. Championship team. Like, I can't put – if I put Kendrick Nunn on, I don't know, say the Wizards would be – equally as bad as they are now. They just have Kendrick Nunn. What I'm saying is Kendrick Nunn doesn't really move the needle. So the fact that his name continues to keep getting brought up. Ooh, he has a $5 million contract this year. Jesus. That's Kendrick Nunn. Now let's talk about Russell Westbrook because he's been getting killed all year. And some of it is justified. Russell Westbrook, his turnovers have been hella high this year. Some of his shots have been hella errant. Hitting the side of the backboard. Do you know how hard it is to hit the corner of the backboard? The corner of the backboard while shooting at said corner? Russell Westbrook shooting at the right corner of the floor. No, let me say this. Shooting at the wing. The right wing and hitting the right corner of the backboard. Do you know how hard that is? And Russell Westbrook's done that a couple times this year. So there is some criticism that Russell Westbrook deserves. There's some criticism that Russell Westbrook definitely deserves. Now, for people who are saying that he derailed and he's the biggest reason why the Lakers are what they are this year, I can't rock with. Russell Westbrook has been the same Russell Westbrook majority of his career outside of that one or that those couple years where he was solo dolo in OKC. High volume shooter. No, let me say this. I'm sorry. Let me take that back. high volume shot attempts. I'm not going to say shooter. High volume shot attempts. Tunnel vision. Isn't the greatest defensive player. Does give you a lot of energy, but it's so misplaced at times. This is the same Russell Westbrook we've seen his entire career. We saw it in OKC. We saw it in OKC after Kevin Durant. We saw it in Houston. We saw it in Washington. And now we're seeing it with the Lakers. I've been black my entire life. I've been black my entire life. I don't know how you can then ask me to try to be Caucasian. Because I've been black my entire life. Let me give a better example. Apparently there's a lot of ways to make eggs. Apparently. I'm not a chef, but there's a lot of ways to make eggs. I've seen people make eggs in microwaves. I've seen people make scrambled eggs. I've seen people make sunny side up eggs. There's multiple ways of making eggs. The only way I know how to make eggs is put the egg, crack it, put about 2 or 3 eggs in the bowl, put some, adobo in it, put some salt and pepper, put some pepper, swing that joint around, put it in a pan that's hot. I know how to make scrambled eggs. You can't then come to me and say, hey, Jay, I know you've done this your entire life, but we're going to need you now to do it this way. Now, I'm not saying this way is better. I'm not saying this way is better for you. I'm saying it's just better for us. So I'm going to need you to do it this way. Of course, there's going to be some blowback. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I've done scrambled eggs this way my entire life. I don't really know how to do it this way. You're asking Russell Westbrook to come on a team where he's been ball dominant his entire career, even with some great players that he should not be ball dominant with. He played with KD. Ascending KD was ball dominant. He played with peak powers James Harden was ball dominant. He played with Paul George and Melo. Ball dominant. He played with Bradley Beal, who averaged like 30-something points for consecutive years. Ball dominant. That's Russell Westbrook. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but I've already named 2 ball dominant players in Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony. Now let's go to Anthony Davis. I think it would be piling on when we talk about the injuries, but we got to talk about the injuries. You know how Drake says, I ain't talked about the plane all verse, but look at the plane. There are fragile players. There are people that are just more fragile than others. There's people that get hurt more frequently than others. Now, some people just can't help it. And maybe that is Carmelo Anthony. Maybe just Carmelo Anthony can't. I mean, not Carmelo, I'm sorry. Maybe that's just Anthony Davis. Maybe Anthony Davis just can't help to escape that injury bug. However, when you hear reports that he came into the season out of shape, you have to know that plays a part in your injury history. I'm not saying you always come to camp or always come into a season out of shape, but you came into the season out of shape this year, and you've had 2 extended stints out due to injury. And a lot of people are now saying, the Lakers should never have traded, they're pretty much immediate future for Anthony Davis, which I don't agree. Anthony Davis, when healthy, is a top 5 player in this league, arguably top 10, top 5, top 10, whatever you want to put it. And there's nobody that you're going to, there's nobody that you're going to get in the draft that is even close to Anthony Davis. Hell, you can look at this draft. Not a player. Not a player that's close to Anthony Davis at his best. Yeah, Paolo looks good. Yeah, Chet Holmgren looks good. Yeah, Jabari Smith looks good. Not one is even close to Anthony Davis. Hell, even look at the draft last year. Cade Cunningham, no. Evan Mobley, both are incredible players, no. So I would have made the trade. Now, it's kind of, hindsight's 2020. Now it's kind of tough when you see what Brandon Ingram's doing, when you see, what Alex Caruso's doing, when healthy, when you see Lamar, Lonzo Ball's doing. It's Josh Hart. It's tough. But it's still Anthony Davis. But I play a lot of at least if the reports are true, because I don't know. I'm not an insider. If the reports are true, I do think that Anthony Davis coming into the season out of shape, especially when you have a history of injury, plays a part in that. I can't expect something to change if I'm not doing the necessary changes. Now, there are some, the twist ankle. That was a freak That was a freak injury. But, there's something that has to be said about that. There's something that has to be said when you have a history of something and you're coming into the season out of shape. Now, again, I don't know if that plays a part in the injury, but I do know that an in shape. But hell, look at Zion. I don't even think we've seen Zion this year, this season. I'm almost sure it would have been different if he was in shape. And then we get to LeBron James. LeBron James has been incredible this year when playing. I think second in the league in scoring at 37. Has been the one bright spot for LA. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to do it. But quiet as it's kept, LeBron James ain't played much defense this year. He's been so incredible on the offensive side of the ball, which is true. But he hasn't played much defense this year. Now, I understand it's tough playing defense when no one else around you is, but he hasn't really led the charge on the defensive side of the ball, which is hard. You can't expect a 37-year-old to be the defensive leader, especially when you have a perennial defensive player of the year candidate in Anthony Davis. You can't expect LeBron James to be the defensive fire. So when you look at this team, you have a ball stopper, two ball stoppers, two ball stoppers. You have a player that is injury prone. You have a group of players that are either just picked up from the street or have done absolutely nothing this year. And then you have LeBron James. So my question is, most of this roster, in fact, majority of this roster was here day one. And a lot of things that I said, while yes, they were an extenuation and they were throughout the entire season, a lot of the stuff that I said are reputation based, meaning that you're coming into the season with this reputation. Carmelo Anthony came into the season. People know he don't play defense like that. People know Carmelo Anthony is not really not really a productive player without the ball in his hands. People know that Russell Westbrook is not a shooter. People know that Russell Westbrook is game is predicated around having the ball and being tunnel vision. Just go at all times. Go at all times. People know that Anthony Davis, when healthy, is one of the best players in the league. But that when healthy is a huge bright lights asterisk because you don't know when he's healthy. And of course, you have LeBron James, who in a lot of people's eyes is the greatest basketball player of all time, and he has reminded us this year that he can still put in work. However, this is also the third straight year where he's had an injury that has kind of caused him to miss, or second straight year that has an injury that's caused him to miss significant time. And this is also probably the third or fourth year where he is just saying, you know what, I can't be playing this defense, and rightfully so. He's 37. Not to mention going in, one of the biggest talking points for this Lakers team was this is the oldest team ever in the NBA. Ever. 37, 34, 32, 31, 29, 34, 25, 21, 36, 37, 25, 23, 24, 26, 23, 33. The oldest team ever assembled. Meaning what? How are you expecting this team that already has a history? In fact, 1, 2, I guess you can say 3, 4. 4 players out of the entire roster have a history of playing defense. Avery Bradley, who ain't played defense in a while. Anthony Davis, we just talked about being hurt. Dwight Howard ain't really been the defensive star that he was since the back injury that kind of derailed his career since his first in LA. And LeBron James, who is 37 years of age. LeBron James is closer to my mother's age than closer to me than to me. He's actually no. Yeah, LeBron James is closer to my mom's age than he's closer to me. Well, it's pretty much the same. What I'm saying is he's old. So what do I say all this? Why did I drag all this out? Because yes, I'm sure that, and I said this last episode, I'm sure that things would be different if everyone was healthy. If you had Anthony Davis for the entire season, if you had LeBron James for the entire season, if you had Kendrick Nunn for the entire season, I think things would be different. Do I think that they'd be 31 and 49? No. They'd probably be over 500, maybe. They'd probably be better. Actually, I don't know about over 500, but they wouldn't be 18 games under 500. That's crazy. Do I think that they'd make the playoffs? Probably. Or at least the play-in, probably. So yes, Anthony Davis. If everyone was healthy, things would be different. Things would not look the way that they look now. But for the people that's saying that this is the most disappointing team ever, you know why? You know why a lot of people say that albums aren't that good, or albums don't live up to the hype? They could be good, but they don't live up to the hype. It's because the hype that was set on them should have never been set on them. Yes. What's the latest? What's the latest, Joan? Certified Lover Boy. No, let me not say that. And Certified Lover Boy, let's say that. Certified Lover Boy, Drake. It was an okay album. But for the hype that was built around that album, it didn't live up to the hype. But should we have built up that hype? We talk about it was pushed back months and months. There's a reason for that. I'm not saying that. Just a lot of people think just because something's pushed back that you're just in the studio, you're just working the entire time. Like, no, Drake was designing some ugly shoes for Nike, doing scents and colognes. Like, Drake had a life. He wasn't really worried about this album, as you can clearly hear. But the hype that we put on Certified Lover Boy, a lot of people are saying, it's disappointing, terrible, this, that, and the third. And I'm not just singling out Certified Lover Boy. What I'm saying is, the reason why people are saying that the Los Angeles Lakers had is the most disappointing team ever is because you looked at the names. People looked at the names and didn't really look at what came behind those names. We saw LeBron. We saw Anthony Davis. No, you know what we did? You know what people did? They saw the names and only saw the positives behind those names. You saw LeBron James. Well, arguably greatest player of all time. You saw Anthony Davis, one of the top 5 players, if healthy, perennial defensive player of the year candidate. You saw Russell Westbrook, triple-double king, high energy player, big name player. You saw Carmelo Anthony, future Hall of Famer, one of the greatest scorers of all time. You saw Dwight Howard, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. One of the best defensive centers we've ever seen when healthy. We saw the positives of these names. What we overlooked was the truth. Carmelo Anthony, 37 years old, ain't played defense a day in his life. Incredible score. When he was, Carmelo Anthony, there was a year when Carmelo Anthony was kind of like, people were kind of championing him to get a job. Teams didn't want him. Anthony Davis, incredible player. But there's a reason why every time we talk about Anthony Davis being an incredible player, we have to throw in when healthy. Russell Westbrook, triple-double king, has not been out the first round of the playoffs since the bubble. Hasn't been out the second round of the playoffs since he played with KD and went to the championship. And lost, by the way. Always been a high turnover rate player. Always been a reckless player. And LeBron James, while he has been incredible this whole year, LeBron James ain't played defense in a while because of he just can't do it anymore. Not saying he's just getting drilled out here, but no, it's, So I guess I started all this to say, man, our expectations, maybe because it's LeBron James led team, maybe because it's all the star power that this team has, all the names, which, by the way, I'm not even going to say star power because they have stars like Melo, AD, Russell Westbrook, Bron, Dwight. They have stars, but none of those stars are really outside of LeBron. None of those stars are stars now, with an asterisk behind Anthony Davis. All I'm saying is, man, maybe we should not have looked at this team as a championship team. And if we would have looked at it as a team that it is, an older team, that none of these players, not one, are 3-point shooters. Not one. In a league that is 3-point heavy, not one of these players is a consistent 3-point shooter. Not one of these players outside of Anthony Davis, who is never there, that's the reason why they call him street clothes, is a defender. And not one of these players can give you quality minutes outside of LeBron James, quality winning minutes on another team. Yet this was the team that was supposed to win an NBA championship. 18 months ago was 18 months ago. A lot has happened in 18 months. In fact, ever since the Lakers won a championship, another team has won. And that other team, which is the Milwaukee Bucks, looks leaps and bounds better than the Lakers. In fact, since the Lakers have won a championship, let's think about something real quick before we move on. Since the Lakers have won a championship, Phoenix, the year the Lakers won a championship, Phoenix didn't even make the playoffs. I don't even think they made the play-in. No, they didn't make the playoffs. I know they won like 9 straight or 8 straight or whatever in the bubble, but they didn't make the playoffs. They weren't that good. Phoenix, the same team that went to an NBA Finals, is looking like they might go to another one this year. Since the Lakers won a championship, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley was not even in the league. In fact, were they even in college? I don't even think they were even in college. Think about that. Think about that. All I'm saying, man, I'm gonna move on. All I'm saying is the reason why people are saying that this is the most disappointing team in NBA history is because they put unrealistic expectations. And it's not unrealistic because like they were shooting for the stars and landed in the clouds. No, people were not looking at the truth. People were not looking at what really is. They were looking at the name and taking the positives from that name and just negating the negatives. And unfortunately, the negatives, which is the more recent, shined bright this year, which is why the LA Lakers, a team that has Anthony Davis, a team that has Carmelo Anthony, a team that has Russell Westbrook, a team that has LeBron James, a team that has Dwight Howard, a team that has Malik Monk, a team that has Wayne Ellington, a team that has Taylor Horton Tucker, a team that has Stanley Johnson, a team that has Avery Bradley, a team that has DJ Augustine, are now have 2 games left. LeBron James is out. 2 meaningless games because they're not going nowhere. So I guess the moral of this segment is take something for what it is, man. That's about it. Let's move forward. So next up, again, we have the season's pretty much winding down. We have just a handful of games left before we start the play-in and playoffs. And next episode, I'm going to give my, Wednesday's episode, I'm going to give my awards as far as, MVP, most improved player, coach of the year, stuff like that. But today, this episode, I wanted to give my All-NBA teams. And this has been, honestly, incredibly difficult. It's been incredibly difficult because there has been it's been difficult for 2 reasons, actually. One, injury. Injury has played a huge part in these NBA teams. There are some players that, haven't played enough to make it to a team. There's some players that should have made it on another team, but because they got injured, they didn't. It's been tough. Also, it's been tough because this has been a great year. There are people that very well should have made this list or could make this list, but they just didn't because it's crowded. Like DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray most definitely could have and could have made an All-NBA team. Well, yes, they're in the play-in, but DeJounte Murray is a huge reason why the Spurs are in the play-in. But it's so crowded, especially at the guard position, that it's hard for him to, in my opinion, to squeeze into the All-NBA. And I also don't like the format. People talk about this all the time. I I don't care. I think that in my opinion, all NBA should be the best. All NBA first team, second team, third team should be the best players. I don't see why I can only have one center because in my opinion, Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid both should most definitely, who are both, of course, in the all NBA, in the MVP conversation, they both should be an all first team because they're both in the MVP conversation. In fact, everyone in the MVP conversation should be an all NBA first team. Like, I don't like the format. I get what you got to have 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. We're not building a team, mind you. Give me the 5 best players from each, and each 5 would be a team. Like, that's how it is. It ain't like they're playing against each other. So I just don't like the format, man. But with the format, let me give you guys my all NBA teams. And let's start with the NBA third team. My guard, this has been tough. Again, DeJounte Murray could have been on this list. Chris Paul could have been on this list, and that's probably the most, the one that a lot of people are going to argue. But my all NBA third team guards is James Harden and Jaylen Brown. We have to. James Harden, right? Now, yes, there's a lot of people that's not going to vote for James Harden because of what went down between, of course, the trade that went down between Brooklyn and Philly. However, James Harden James Harden has not been playing well, like, as of recent. Like, he hasn't had the greatest transition from Brooklyn to Philly. But even still, James Harden is averaging 22 points a game, 8 rebounds, and 10 assists. Like, he's second in the league in assists. James Harden's been crazy. James Harden has been incredible. Now, again, as of late, he hasn't been great. And we can't negate that. He hasn't been that good. But I think he's been good enough. If you just look at statistically, he's been good enough to be at least all NBA third team. And Jaylen Brown's averaging 24 points a game, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. Now, those aren't eye-popping numbers, but he is one of the biggest and most important cogs for the Boston Celtics, a Boston Celtics team who was fighting to make it to the 2nd seed in the East. A lot of people are looking at, Chris Paul again could have made this slot. DeJounte Murray, but I'm going to reward Jaylen Brown. Has been, he's played like 65 games. I know Chris Paul's played like 64, but I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown. I just think Jaylen Brown has been a very important piece to a team that actually could make some noise in the playoffs, and that is the Boston Celtics. So my 2 guards for the third team is Jaylen Brown and James Harden. My forwards is LeBron James and Jimmy Butler. Now, whoa. Before people start killing me about LeBron James. 1, LeBron James has missed some time. 2, LeBron James has had incredible numbers. Don't get me wrong. LeBron James has been great. He's second all time in scoring, past Karl Malone this year. He's averaging like 30 points. I think second in the league. In fact, I know he's second in the league in scoring. LeBron James has been incredible. But none of that has really amounted to winning. Now, I'm not all putting it on him, but it hasn't amounted to winning. And when we talk about all NBA, you have to in my opinion, you have to incorporate winning. And nothing that LeBron James has done has really like saved the season for the Lakers. It's been entertaining. He dropped 50 a couple times, but nah. And Jimmy Butler, because he's missed some significant time too, but he has been important. In fact, the Heat won. They're the number 1 seed in the East, and Jimmy Butler while his offense hasn't been, the biggest factor for them being number 1, but his defense, his leadership has been great. Even though he did get into a little verbal altercation with the coach and Udonis Haslam. But even still, I have LeBron James and Jimmy Butler for the third team forwards. And the big, I have Karl Anthony Towns, man. Karl Anthony Towns has secretly put a crazy season together, man. Like, Karl Anthony Towns has been hooping. Now, Karl Anthony Towns usually puts up numbers. I'm not going to lie to you. But he's been on a different level ever since he won that 3-point contest, averaging 25 points a game, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists. Like, he's been going crazy. And is amounted in winning. I mean, they're in the play? Yeah, they're in the play-in. Are they in the play-in? Are they in the play-in? No, I don't think they're in the play-in, actually. I think they're, like, in the playoffs. So, I have to, yeah, they're definitely in the playoffs, I think. Maybe. But, yeah, no, they've been incredible. And I can't, Karl Anthony Towns has been the third best. No, they're in the play-in. They're in the 7th seed. No, that's the play-in. You're right. Well, they're in the play-in, but even still, Karl Anthony Towns has been going crazy. So I have my third NBA team is Jaylen Brown, James Harden, LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, and Karl Anthony Towns. And quiet as it kept, I don't remember the last time outside of I don't remember the last time LeBron James didn't make an All NBA team. So he had to leave and make one. Second team was difficult. It was difficult because to me the second and first team was affected the most by injury. And I'll start. My two guards for the second team is Steph Curry and Luka Doncic. In my opinion, Steph Curry and Luka could most definitely been on the first team. More Steph than Luka. I think Luka's been incredible this year. Don't get me wrong. Luka has been great. But, I mean, Steph, you can see the difference in how the Golden State Warriors, even with Klay Thompson, even with Draymond Green, you see how different they look with Steph off the floor. Also, but Luka averages 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists. Like, Luka's been going crazy. I'm also the guards on my first team. I awarded more to winning, but I have Steph and Luka as my guards. Steph, even though I think he's played 62 or 63 games this year, Steph is still Steph. I mean, there was a time when Steph was leading the league or leading the MVP vote. It wasn't the beginning of the year, but it was a very brief time. And since then, there's the biggest reason why a lot of people still have Golden State as people that can upset either Grizzlies or Phoenix in the playoffs because of Steph. So those are my guards. My forwards, I have DeMar DeRozan and KD. For some reason, the Bulls have been playing DeMar DeRozan at the forward. He's a guard to me, but they have him at forward, so I'm just going to go with it. And it's KD, man. I do think that I'll talk about Brooklyn has underachieved this year drastically, but that's no fault to KD. Yes, KD did get hurt a little bit, but KD has been incredible. And, it's KD currently is averaging 30 points a game, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. 29.9. I'm going to round up to 30. So I usually round up. If you can round up, 5 and up is round up. 4 and down is round down. But yeah, Kevin Durant has been incredible. Kevin Durant is showing people why he is arguably the best player in the league. So, and my second team, to me, the center for the second team or second and first team was difficult because there's no question who is either going to be Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic. And I've been on Nikola Jokic train this entire season as far as he should possibly win his second straight MVP. And because of that, and this is no slight to Joel Embiid because Joel Embiid has been putting up numbers that we haven't seen since Shaq, but I have Joel Embiid as my second team. So my All-NBA second team, I have Steph, Luka, DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid. So now for my first team. I understand the controversy that may come from this first pick, or maybe the first two picks, but my first team, I have Ja Morant and I have Devin Booker. All they've been talking about is, should Devin Booker be an MVP candidate? Should Devin Booker do this? Should Devin Booker do that? Yes, I get it. Devin Booker has played incredible, especially with Chris Paul being out. Now, he did come back, of course, but Chris Paul was out for a long period of time. And behind the play of Devin Booker and the incredible team play, the Phoenix Suns have been able to maintain and have a sizable lead as a number one overall team in the league. And Ja Morant, everyone's going to point to the team is 20-2 with Ja Morant not there. Okay, well, what are they when Ja Morant is there? And what is Ja Morant do? In fact, what is Ja Morant doing when he is on the floor? When Ja Morant's on the floor, just give me a second. I gotta look this up. Ja Morant is averaging 28 points a game, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. Ja Morant also, by the way, remember he's averaging 6 rebounds. He's 6'3", 147 pounds. I'm sorry, 174 pounds. Ja Morant is cold, bro. Ja Morant, not to mention, he is the leader of a team in the Grizzlies that are a lot of people think could win a championship this year. So I have Ja Morant and Devin Booker as my first team. My forwards, I have Jason Tatum and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, Giannis is also in the MVP race, and Jason Tatum averaging 27 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Jason Tatum is, I'm surprisingly shocked that he is one of the leaders as far as defensive shares or whatever. He's one of the biggest reasons why the Boston Celtics is one of the best defensive teams. Him and Jaylen Brown, 2 players that I awarded on my All NBA teams. One of the biggest reasons why they are All NBA. Why the Boston Celtics is an incredible defensive team. Now, I do think losing Robert Wood is huge, and I do think that is going to determine or affect their chances of winning a championship. But Jason Tatum has been incredible, and it's Giannis. It's Giannis. We know how incredible Giannis is. Arguably, more than likely, the best player in the world right now. It's Giannis. And for my center, I have Nikola Jokic. I think he became the first player in NBA history to have like 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and like 800 assists in a season. Who is a center, by the way. So my first team is Ja Morant, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Giannis, Nikola Jokic. My second team is Steph, Luka, DeMar DeRozan, KD, and Joel Embiid. My third team is Jaylen Brown, James Harden, LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, and Karl Anthony Towns. What are your teams? Who have I left off? Who is too low? Who is too high? Let me know in the comments, and we'll definitely talk about it. So, and lastly, before we go, MLB is back. Well, we knew that, but opening day happened a couple days ago, and I don't care. No disrespect to baseball or anything, but Washington looks as bad as they are going to look. Now, I will say that Juan Soto is like the favorite to be the NL MVP, which, that's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty good. He homered the first game. But I guess Washington's built for the future, and they're not good. And right now, again, very early, only 1 or 2 games been playing, but it's looking like all the moves that the Dodgers made, the Braves are still a good team. They just won the World Series. I need people to stop, man. I need people to stop really propping up the Yankees at this point. Yeah, I know they have a story. We're kind of looking at the Yankees like we look at the Lakers. Like, come on now. I know they have some big names, but the Yankees, in my opinion, do not have a shot to win the World Series. Like, they're over here debating. They're over here trying to get Aaron Judge an extension. The man's not. Even if they had Aaron Judge, like they wish they did. I don't see it. I know they have Giancarlo Stanton. The Yankees ain't winning the World Series. Maybe San Francisco could be a sleeper. I don't know. But Washington's not good. They don't look like they're going to be good. Juan Soto looks like he's going to be good, but that's about it. So, and there you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. It's getting a little warm out there. Spring is kind of popping its head finally. So go get your, short sleeve shirts. Go get your Unpopular Podcast swag. Oh, that sounds terrible, swag. Go get your merch, man, and help support. Also, please subscribe to whoever you're listening. Please subscribe to whoever you're watching. If you can, I'm trying to grow the podcast, and I can't do it without you guys. Please share. Please comment. Please rate. Please like. It definitely means a lot to me. And until next time, much love.